Hello and welcome back to the Scenario 7 podcast. My name is Sam and today I'm joined by my two lovely co-hosts. It's Joe Roberts and Matt Collier. How are you two doing?
I'm doing well, Sam. How are you?
I am very well. How are you doing, Matt?
Yeah, doing good. Thank you, Sam. Always a pleasure.
Mate, the pleasure is all mine. And today we are here for an Emilia Romagna preview. We haven't been to this track since last year, so it's not as big a gap as it was between Australia and this year's Australia race, but a week gap between Australia and this one, and we are back. Let's kick off. Let's get straight into it with Have I Got F1 News for You? So if you guys haven't seen one of our previews this year, we start off with a little bit of fun with Have I Got F1 News to You? I read out a line from the media and I leave out a word and the co-hosts have to try and guess the word. And then we discuss the topic that the article is about. And this week, this is from Autosport, and the headline was Gasly losing Monaco Grand Prix from F1 calendar would be a blank. So let me read it out again. Gasly losing Monaco GP from F1 calendar would be a Joe and Matt. What are your guesses?
Mine's
Disaster.
shambles. Yeah, shambles.
Mine's disaster.
Disaster. Both wrong. Any more guesses though? Joe, you were close.
Travesty.
No.
Failure. I don't know.
No. Any more guesses? Come on.
I should know this because I'm pretty sure I saw it a few days ago.
I don't know, Sam. I don't know.
Do you both give up?
Yes.
Poor from you. We haven't got many of these this year, apart from Robert randomly getting the spoon one a few weeks ago. Gasly losing Monaco Grand Prix from F1 calendar would be a shocker. Shocker is the missing word. So, Joe, you were close with shambles. That was a great effort. So Frenchman Pierre Gasly said he would find it difficult to accept Monaco losing its place as the race has such an intrinsic part of F1 history. It has formed part of the F1 calendar in 67 of the World Championships, 37 seasons since it began in 1950. So the question I want to ask you guys is, with new tracks and more races on the horizon, do you think that Monaco should keep its place on the F1 calendar, or do you think it should be one of the first ones to go? Is how iconic it is enough to ignore the frankly dull racing there?
I'll probably. Matt might be agreeing with this because I think he's watched F1 the same time as I have. As in, I like it. I think for me, it's part of the history. It's like certain tracks like Monaco, you have like Silverstone and Spa, and then obviously Monza. I think there's like 5, I think, iconic tracks that have to be on the calendar, and this is one of them. Personally, I don't really think. Personally, I don't understand why Monaco is getting threatened, and I understand why the racing is boring because it's the cars are too big, but that's. There can, I think personally, should be some adjustments to Monaco, but for me, it's the glamour. It's what F1's always been, and it should stay because it's also had some great races like 2008 when was it 2007 when Raikkonen hit the back of Sittel for it's caused crashes and that, and for me it's just it can be exciting. You just need the rain to be involved.
For me, it has to be kept on the calendar. If you ask any F1 driver what one race they want to win, they'd probably say Monaco. It's just so iconic. As Joe said, it's been on the calendar for so many years. For me, it's just got to stay. It's a tradition, and it has produced some good races. Ricardo mainly involved in a lot of drama at that track. So yeah, I definitely have to keep it.
Yeah, certainly. You did have the Ricciardo heartbreak to Ricciardo redemption arc there. He's got a lot of history there. It's an interesting one because, as you've mentioned, it's such a historic track. I mean, you think F1, and one of the first tracks you think of is the Monaco Grand Prix. You have the glitz and the glamour. It's a race that you would want to, as a fan, go to for the experience of it rather than the racing. But I agree with you that it probably should be kept on the calendar from that point of view, because you, as an F1 fan, you want to have different experiences. Yes, there have been a lot of dull races, and I'd say that good races are not every year, but I do think there is a lot of history there. Adjustments could be made. I mean, you want to keep the iconic parts of the track, but at the same time, if they could just make it a bit easier to overtake there. With the new cars, who knows? Maybe we'll see some differences when we race there this year. But yeah, I think I agree with you guys. I think it should be kept onto the calendar. But now let's get on to why we're here, the Emilia Romagna preview. So they'll be racing at the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. It's a 4.9 kilometer circuit with one DRS zone, 19 corners. Bear in mind, last race in Australia, we only had 14 corners. There's 19 corners and 63 laps. So what do you guys think of this legendary track?
I personally think it's. I would say it's one of the challenging tracks. It's also kind of has, as you again said, some historic with obviously Ellen Senna dying there. It basically has caused. I think they had to do some number of changes after that crash. So it has history. I think also has pedigree as well, as in what the last race showing with the mix of conditions, and obviously the sprint race will spice that up this season. But yeah, as in the track is good. You can actually overtake with the long straight. The only issues with it is because it's so tight, it can cause some slipstream trains, but it's overall a very, very good track and a lot better than a couple of weeks ago in Australia. Sorry.
Yeah, as Joe said, it's been on the calendar for many races. I think it is more suitable to the F1 cars of about 40 years ago. But as Joe said, it's quite a tight circuit. For me, I think qualifying is more exciting, seeing those drivers push the absolute limit on those curbs. But yeah, no, it's still a very good track.
Yeah, it is a solid circuit. I mean, Joe, you did mention there that there is still potential for overtaking on the main straight, but it actually averages the third least overtakes per race since 2017 for tracks on the current calendar, with the only two being less being, I'll let you finish as come in a set, but the only two being less being Australia, and that was before the changes, and Monaco. Joe, what do you want to say?
There's only been 2 races there, so obviously the average is going to be low.
That doesn't matter. I'm just reading you a stat, Joe. I don't need to give you the context, even though it might actually be important. But as I was saying, yeah, third least overtakes. There is possibilities, but there's still not like an overtrack heavy track. But it's not too bad. It's historic. It's better in the wet, I think, because we saw last year how much fun that race was. You had, even into turn one of the first lap, you had Hamilton versus Verstappen being his overly aggressive self, of course. You had spins all over the place. Perez ended up in the gravel once or twice, getting a 10-second penalty for one of them. So yeah, it's an interesting track, Imola. I don't mind it. I wouldn't say it's one of my favourite tracks, but it's a bit of an underdog track, in my opinion, that it can be one of the best races. That when you're looking at the season ahead, you look at the tracks where you think the best racing is going to be, you don't necessarily look at Imola. But it can sometimes surprise you, as we saw last year, because last year, I'd argue, it was definitely in the top half of races in the season. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But we've got no track guide this week, unfortunately. So we're going to go straight into looking at last year. I've already mentioned a few things that happened, but yeah, let's look at last season's race. It's a very wet Imola. So starting on the Saturday, Hamilton took pole with Perez in second and Verstappen in third. That was where Perez's luck ended, unfortunately. Before the race had even begun on Sunday, Leclerc span on the formation lap. We had Nicholas Latifi DNF after he re-entered the track after spinning and hitting Mazepin, causing a lap 2 safety car. On lap 4, while still under safety car, Mick Schumacher crashed in front of the pit exit under safety car, as I just said, losing his front wing and causing the pit lane to close during the safety car. Perez unfortunately did get a 10-second penalty under the safety car for going off and retaking the positions he lost, though I wasn't very happy at the time because, the two cars in front did basically let him through, but is what it is. I'll leave that in the past. On lap 31, Hamilton slides off the track trying to lap Russell, and even though it looked like his race was over, luckily Toto got on the rear to Valtteri Bottas and told him, "Listen, mate, we need a red flag." And he crashed into George Russell a lap later before turn 1 in quite a spectacular collision. Lap 35, Yuki Tsunoda spun on the restart. Lap 38, Perez spun after going wide, and the race finished Verstappen first, Hamilton rescuing a very impressive second, and Lando Norris third. So, guys, as always, we look at what was your main memory from the last race? What was a memory from that race that stood out to you?
I'll let you, Matt, go first.
That's fine. I was just going to fill in a few things. You also had Vettel, who was having issues, who had to start from the pit lane. And you also had Nicholas Latifi and Mazepin colliding into each other, causing Latifi to DNF. So much happened that race. I've probably gone for a more of a bizarre pick, and that was when all the cars lined up on the grid. You had a lot of people on intermediate tyres, but then you had Pierre Gasly on full wets along with both the Hasses, and it was just probably one of the worst strategy blunders I've ever seen. It was just so, you're in trouble when both the Hasses are on full wets, and I think Pierre Gasly qualified P5 that race, and he was on those wet compound tyres and was just dropping like a fly being hit against the wall. There was a safety car, but for some reason they didn't bring Pierre Gasly in. Lap 4, Mick Schumacher was trying to warm up those wet tyres and absolutely lost it, as you already explained, on the pit exit. I've gone for a slightly different one, but I'm sure Joe's got lots to say as well.
My one, I would say, is probably Hamilton getting stuck in the wall, and then obviously getting helped. I think he got lapped or something, and then got helped by his teammate, which was the two Mercedes contracted, as obviously Russell was at Williams. It was mayhem, and then obviously all the debris. So yeah, Hamilton getting lapped and then getting helped by his former teammate and current teammate in Bottas and George Russell with the crash, to then obviously come back and get second. That's my pick.
Yeah, I mean, of course, as going through it, I don't mean that Toto really did get on the phone to Bottas and told him to crash into Russell. That was a racing incident. But Matt, bringing up your point, it's always Pierre Gasly on full wets. Like, wasn't it a qualifying session a few years ago when they thought, you know what, let's just brave it.
My favorite one was Pierre Gasly in a Toro Rosso, Germany. And it was, what race was it? 2018. It was the one where drivers were pitting on softs, inters, and Pierre Gasly, it was brilliant. They saw, there's drops of rain, so at Toro Rosso they decided to put Pierre Gasly in full wets, and Martin Brundle was like, "What on earth is that?" And Crofty says something about, I don't know, some sort of desert reference, and Pierre Gasly just, I don't know, his engineers do very weird tyre choices. Let's put it that way.
It is always the full ups with Gasly, and of course Crofty made a pun. My favourite one from Australia was when Yuri Vips was sitting on the pit wall with a Red Bull, and Crofty said, "I didn't realise they were letting the VIPs on the pit wall." It's a terrible dad joke, but it did make me laugh. But coming back to what we're talking about, my memory of Imola last year is actually another niche one. It's to do with Yuki Tsunoda. He had a bit of a nightmare in qualifying, but during the race, I mean, it was mixed fortunes, but he started so well. He started last and made up 10 places during the race. And we were starting to see the promise that Yuki Tsunoda showed in F2. He was making up positions. He was doing really well. And then he did something which kind of summed up last season, where he undid all the good work, and under the restart from the red flag, he ended up spinning and dropping down a few places. He still managed to bring it home for P12, but it could have been so much better. And when you consider that there were only 2 cars behind him that finished, the rest of the cars all had issues. It was not great when he could have done so much more. But yeah, that was my memory of last race. A great effort from Yuki, and then a typical Yuki spin, which is such a shame because I've defended him so many times. The promise he showed, we'll see it at some point, hopefully. But let's move on to our predictions. First of all, looking at the table, of course, if you think that the prediction table looked weird, we do it on averages because we understand that not people can't be here every week, aka Josh can't be here every week. He's never here. So for him to give him a chance, we have done it on averages. So reading out the table after Australia, and unfortunately, Joe has retaken the lead. Joe is back up to first.
Why am I here? I should just stay out of the podcast for the rest of the season just to win.
Joe is embarrassing.
I haven't been here for the last 2 races.
Well, that's why, because I didn't get any right last race, so my average dropped, unfortunately. So yeah, Joe's first on 1.5 points. I'm in second on 1.3. I'm still near you, Joe, but getting 0 points last week or 2 weeks ago in Australia didn't help me. In third is Josh on 1 point, and I'm sorry, Matt, he's ahead of you in alphabetical order. So it's really unlucky, but you are level on points. You're just below on alphabetical order. But yeah, you're in fourth, also on 1 point. Both of you getting that point last week. And in fifth is Robert on 0.5 points, who drops from third to last as you and Josh finally did some predictions last week. But yeah, that is the table as it stands. A lot of room to change, but let's do our wacky race predictions first. And I will get us kick-started. And first accident, I have gone Zhou Guanyu on lap 1. And I'm not going to lie, I don't really have much explanation for this, but turn 1 at Imola is carnage. It's a tough corner for many cars to go round. And I've gone for someone who I think will be in the midfield and might just get crushed by someone. So yeah, I've gone for Zhou Guanyu, lap 1 first accident. There's a bit of a theme. First safety car / red flag. I've not gone for Zhou Guanyu because I'm trying to spread my guesses out for people who I think that might cause carnage. And I've gone for Lance Stroll because he last race was very interesting. Got involved with a altercation with Nicholas Latifi, which was an interesting crash, but if he doesn't check his mirrors, he's going to get caught out. And that's what I think is going to happen. Lap 1 will cause a safety car or a red flag. First pit stop, I've also gone lap 1, but Carlos Sainz. And that is because, spoiler for later, I think he'll be at the front of the pack on lap 1. First blue flag. There wasn't one in Australia, but I have gone for the safe, easy guess of Nicholas Latifi. The slander on this podcast is quite sad because he's a lovely guy, but he's not really been performing this season. I think that's fair to say. Hopefully he improves. I've gone for lap 43 for that one. And for most overtakes, you mentioned it last week, Matt, that Alfa Romeos have bad starts. So I've gone for Valtteri Bottas because I think he'll have a bad start and then make his way through the field. Admittedly, last year in Imola didn't have a great time, but I think that it's going to be Bottas's time with 8 overtakes. So that's my 5 predictions. What do you guys think for these 5?
Matt?
Okay, I'll go again. Yeah, there's a few similar ones, to be honest. First accident, gone with Nicholas Latifi, lap 1. First safety car / accident / red flag. I've got Lance Stroll, lap 15. First pit stop. I decided from last week to actually pick someone that's further up the grid. So I've gone with Verstappen, lap 20. First blue flag, Latifi, lap 25. Most overtakes. I've gone with a slightly lower number compared to Australia. I've gone with Magnussen with 5.
I've gone with continue on with the Stroll fiend. The first accident, I've gone with Stroll. And going based off last season with the spinning around, I think Tsunoda crashed in practice and then crashed in qualifying and then spun out in the race. I've gone Tsunoda cause a red flag or a safety car. First pit stop, I did choose Schumacher, but I've changed it to Pierre Gasly. As I looked at the forecast for the race, and it's going to be wet, potentially to dry. But you can never trust Google because the BBC said it's going to be sunny. So I don't actually know. So I've gone for Gasly. And then blue flags, I'm going to go bold and say there's going to be no blue flags because there will be too many safety cars, which means everybody has to go through the field again, which means there'll be no lapped cars. And for most overtakes, I have gone for, I'm going to go for Esteban Ocon with 4.
Solid picks. What lap for first safety car red flag and what lap for first pit stop?
First for the accident and safety car, and then lap, I'm going to go, because it's going to rain first, it's going to be a bit wet, it's going to dry up, I'm going to go lap 15.
What about first pit stop?
That's what I said, first pit stop. 15.
You did not say first pit stop.
Okay, pit stop's going to be 15. Then accident and safety car would be lap 1.
There we go. All right.
Blue flag.
Yeah, he said no blue flag.
He
said no blue flag. So that's that's some interesting predictions there. I am looking forward to hopefully Gasly going for an interesting strategy, as he said. First pit stop. He's going to see the rain dying out, and he's going to be on intermediates, and he's going to be like, you know what? I think the rain's going to pick up again. Let's go on some full wets, because that's what Pierre Gasly's pit crew does. Now let's look at some podiums. And as it's a sprint weekend, we can predict the podium for the sprint race and for the race podium. First of all, for the sprint race, I've got a question to ask you. So the sprint race this week is not new in many ways, but there are a few differences to last year. So pole this year is going to be set on the Friday. Saturday still determines the grid for Sunday. But the main difference is that first to eighth this year get points, with last year being first to third. And first place will get 8 points and eighth place will get 1 point. So you can work out the changes there. But what are your thoughts on the changes? I mean, they're not massive changes, but I thought I'd mention it because we got to talk about the sprint weekend before I almost forgot. But yeah, what are your thoughts on the changes? I mean, it's only really a point system.
Yeah, I really like it. It's going back to the old 2007, 2008 days, so I'm happy with it.
Yeah, I like the sprint races. I wish there's more of them, but I think they just put too much stress on teams. But my favourite one was definitely Fernando Alonso, starting on those soft tyres in one of the sprint races. I think it was Silverstone, and yeah, there's only 8 points available. I mean, it's better than 3 points last year, and it definitely spiced up a few things. I think Pierre Gasly ended up DNFing in the sprint race in Italy, so to start at the back of the grid. So it can definitely spice things up.
Yeah, I think that we're the only podcast or the only people in the F1 community that like the sprint races. Scrolling through Twitter today, I was just like, oh, I hate sprint races. Why do we have a sprint weekend? No one wants it. I think that we're the only real positive ones. But yeah, I mean, it's an extra race on the weekend. Let's be real. Extra room for drama. So I'm never going to turn that down. But yeah, as I was saying, let's first of all predict the sprint podium. So the top three, I will go first, because I am pretty set on mine. I'm pretty confident with mine, unless one of the drivers ends up DNFing because his engine catches on fire. You can probably guess who that is. But yeah, in third place, I have got Max Verstappen for the sprint. His car looks quick, but I think that the track doesn't suit the car as much as it suits another team in red. I don't know if you can predict who that'll be. But yeah, I think that Charles Leclerc will be second in a bit of an upset as Carlos Sainz ends up winning the sprint race. I think that the amount of corners and only one DRS straight, only really one straight, so not as much room for the Red Bull to use their top speed, to utilize it. Meanwhile, I mean, the Red Bull have said all along that the Ferrari are really strong in the corners. So I think that will be utilized in Imola. And that's why for my sprint podium, I've got Sainz first, Leclerc second, Verstappen third. But what do you guys think?
I have gone for, in the sprint race, I've gone for Leclerc P1, Sainz P2, and Verstappen P3.
I've gone different. I've gone Verstappen first in the sprint, Leclerc, and then Perez.
Very, very interesting. Me and Joe thinking Ferrari dominance, while Matt switches up and goes for some Red Bull choices. But the only thing that matters at the end of the day is the race podium, the top three for the race. And I haven't changed it too much. I've still got Verstappen in third. I think there won't be that much overtaking. I mean, of course, Verstappen started in third last year, and you saw him power past Perez in second and Hamilton in first and get a great start. But I just think that the Ferrari are going to be dominant this weekend in their home race as well. People often think that Monza's their home race because we have raced there for longer and had a big gap for Imola. But no, Imola is Ferrari's home race, and I think they'll be strong. So you have Verstappen in third. The only change I'm going to make is dropping Sainz to second and Leclerc to win. I think Leclerc's a lot more experience with winning races. Sainz will get a win this year, 100% certain of that. Definitely going to happen. But for me, Leclerc's going to win at Sainz second and Verstappen third.
Well, I've basically gone the same for my prediction for for the sprint race. So I think it's going to be Leclerc and then Sainz P2 and then Verstappen P3. I think the Ferrari is going to dominate, and which they have done all this season, and carry on their impressive run?
I've basically gone very similar to the sprint, but I've gone for one change. I do think a Red Bull will DNF. So I've gone with Verstappen to win the race, Leclerc second, and then Sainz P3.
No, we can't have Perez DNFing. That's not right. But honestly, with their issues at the moment with reliability, who knows what will happen. But interesting, Verstappen's still first. So again, difference of opinion of which car will be strongest this weekend. But that wraps up our Emilia Romagna preview for this weekend's race. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to like, subscribe, comment your predictions down below. If you want to stay up to date with what is happening at the Scenario 7 podcast, our links are in the description on both your audio platform and on YouTube. But yeah, as I said, thank you for listening and watching. We have so much more content coming out this week, so stay tuned for that. And we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.